Hey y'all, it's Lauren,
And Brianna.
and you're listening to Social Workers on Fire. And as promised twice, we are now going to do some case studies on our episode this month. We're going to touch on 3 different cases, kind of give just a little variety of different things that we experience and people that we work with. And so our first person, we're going to call him H. And so he was a frequent 911 caller. He typically called because he was having issues with his eyes. And it turned out that the reason that he was having all these issues with his eyes is that he was living in a condemned house and there was mold in the home. And it was causing his eyes to swell up, to have infection and leaking and all sorts of issues. And so the firefighters referred us to him. We actually, initially, Brianna opened him, and he decided at that point, pretty quickly after you opened him, to move with his dad out of county. And so we closed the case when he did that. But I want to say maybe only a few months later, he decided maybe I don't like living with Dad. And so he came back to our county and went back to that condemned home, and once again started calling 911 because the same medical issues, because you're living in just poor conditions that are exacerbating your health issues. And so firefighters referred him back, and so we went back out there and reopened him as a client. And so as I got to talking to him, because this time I opened him under my caseload, and as I got to talking to him, I realized, first of all, that he did not have a primary care provider. And so he was using the hospital as his primary care doctor to get these eye issues resolved, returning home, of course, to the same conditions, and then not following up with anyone. And so it was just a repeat cycle that he had. And so we applied to a local doctor's office here. He is Medicaid only. So we applied to a doctor's office here that accepts Medicaid, and he was accepted. And so he started being seen there. They actually found some even more health issues going on. He is very, very good about riding our local transportation, our trolley bus here. He will walk to the trolley stop. He will ride that. He goes to his appointments. So he is really good about that. I don't think he really knew the resources out there. And so all he knew to do was call 911, Right. But the bigger issue we ran into is, at the time, he was very resistant to moving out of this home. He had been there for a long time. He wasn't really having to pay rent. All he had to pay was utilities. And so, he even had a conversation with me like, I know you may not understand and you may judge me for this, but this is all I know. And I feel like if I leave here, that I'm going to just die if I leave this place that I've always known. And so I just kind of reassured him, hey, there's no judgment here. I'm here if you ever change your mind. And I told him, I said, one day I hope that you realize that you deserve better than what you're living in. And when that day comes, I'll be here and I'm going to help you get out of here. And so I continued to follow up with him, just regarding the primary care provider, his doctor's appointments, and then every once in a while, throwing in some motivational interviewing, some about the housing, and kind of feeling him out about it, until one day he gave me a call and he said, I'm tired of it. I want out of here. I want to move. And I'm like, yes, this is what we've been waiting on. And we probably worked around a year before he came around to this decision. And that's one thing with working with adults is, you can't force them unless they are deemed mentally incompetent. You can't force them to do something, even if it's in their best interest, right? We have the right to make that decision and to live the way we want to live, as long as it's not hurting others. Right. And so, but he came to that decision. And so quickly I got all the documents we needed. We applied for income-based. He is only on SSI, so he's very low income. But thankfully we have some apartment complexes here in Tuscaloosa that are specifically for people 62 and older, that are low income. And he was 64, so he was perfect age for that. And so we applied for those in August of 2023, about a year later after we got involved. rent. And this is pretty quick turnaround. Usually doesn't happen this quick, but their wait lists were actually low for income-based. I'm sure all you social workers out there know what we're talking about. But actually the very next month, they gave us a call and said, hey, he's at the top and ready to move in. But of course, with him being low income, paying deposit plus rent was still tough. Like, he does not have a lot of income. And so we actually partnered with a local church that we had on here before in another one of our podcasts, First United Methodist Church. And so they came and helped him pay the deposit, and he actually got his own church as well to kind of put forth a little bit of money as well to help move him in. And the great part about this place is that rent and utilities are included, and it's only a percentage of your income. So he still has plenty of money left over to take care of food and whatever other needs he has. And so after we moved him in there, he now has a primary care doctor. We have not had any 911 calls from him, so he stopped completely. He is still open with us, but it's just for some minor things. We're actually helping him. He needs some surgery with his eyes, with some glaucoma, and some other small things. But as far as 911 calls, he has stopped. So he was a big success for us.
Yes, definitely. And one point that I want to make to this case is the fact that a lot of times we'll have our firefighters or just people in the community who think that we are miracle workers. And that's definitely not the case. But the point that I would like to make here is, if me or Lauren would have approached this client and tried to, right off the bat, force him to leave his living situation or force him to make a change, we would have been unsuccessful. He would not be where he's at today. So what I want people to understand is that it's not that we're miracle workers. We just have to have a lot of patience, and then you have to be able to learn how to motivate your clients to want to make that change.
Yes.
And so that, combined with the patience, is how we are able to consider this a success story.
Yeah.
And I think that's the golden trick that everybody wants to know. How do you guys, become successful and get them to stop calling 911? And it's really, we're meeting them halfway, but we allow the client to decide what they want to do, and with the understanding that we are here when you're ready to make that change at any point.
Yeah, and he's even made statements to me, and I think that goes along with the motivational interviewing and the patience is with other things that have come up too. He's like, anyone else would have judged me for this and would have just wrote me off, and you didn't. You continued to show up, and we laugh about it now. He's like, you sure were there. You said you'd be there when I changed my mind. And I'm like, you're right. Like, I wasn't lying. And so I think that's huge, is just coming at approach of, I'm not here to judge you. I'm not judging your situation and your choices, but you do deserve better. And when you're ready to do better and be better, then we're here for you.
We're here for you. And we stand behind our word when we tell them that we are here for them. And so they know that at any point they can call us when they're ready. And so
absolutely. Well, I'll let Brianna touch on our next little case we've got.
Okay. So my case is going to be, we're going to call her Kay. And so this was a case for lift assist, which I know any firefighters listening, you guys are familiar with the frequent calls that you get for lift assist. I'm sure all throughout the nation. This is something that's picking up. And so this particular patient was suffering from morbid obesity. And so she would continuously call 911 with a request to go to the emergency room for things like chest pain. She wasn't necessarily falling in the home because she couldn't get up. She had been bedbound for about 2 years when I initially met her. And so she was just suffering at home from chest pain and would frequently visit the hospital. And so after multiple lift assists, she was referred to me, and I went out and done the assessment. And my number one goal was to learn, what are the barriers to getting you the care that you need so that you can lose the weight, so that you can walk again one day. And so I quickly learned that one of the biggest barriers was that she was a Medicaid-only patient. So it's a little bit harder to get approved for any kind of facility or certainly any kind of home health care, anything like that when you're Medicaid only. So we kind of had that working against us right off the bat. And so long story short, in regards to the Medicaid, what we ended up doing was working with her primary care provider, as well as UAB Hospital in Birmingham, and was able to get her in a bariatric inpatient facility. But that was certainly not easy. It was very similar to the case that Lauren just described. I worked with her for 8 months to almost a year, just kind of going along with the flow. And, I had discussed the morbid obesity and the things that I knew that were really the issue, but this patient was under the impression that she was just swollen. She didn't think that she was overweight, and she did not think that there was any issues. She just genuinely thought that she was swollen and that she had heart problems. And she wasn't wrong. She certainly had heart problems because of her size. This patient was almost 700 pounds. And so, at the very least, every time she would go to the hospital, she had fluid on her lungs, but she wasn't understand. She was in denial, at how severe the obesity was. And so, at that point, I just kind of started, like what we were talking about earlier, started motivating her. I became really patient at that point because I realized that she's not understanding what's actually going on and she's in denial about it. And so I just began to motivate her. We would do motivational interviewing at every visit, along with other, small social needs that we would help with. And, finally one day I just told her, I said, Miss Kay, at the end of the day, when I come over here and see you, I walk out of your house and I go on about my day and take care of, whatever it is that I need to do. And I said, it really breaks my heart to know that you are in this bed from the time that I leave until the time that I come back, which may be a week, maybe 2 weeks, whatever. And that you have no mobility at all. And so I said, I really want you to know that I'm really concerned about you, and I want to motivate you. If there's anything that you would like to do to make a change about this situation, then I'll be here if you ever make that decision. And so, she listened, and I kind of felt like it just went in one ear and out the other. And so she said, well, what do you mean by that? And so I reiterated, I think the best thing that we could try is to send you to an inpatient facility. So that way you could attempt to lose the weight and, potentially come back home and be walking and just live a normal life. You could do all the things that you wish that you could do, and all the things that you've been wishing that you could do over the past 2 years that you've been lying in this bed. And so she was kind of thinking about it. And so anyways, we ended the visit. I left. And the very next day, when I got in the office that morning at 7:30, my phone was ringing and she was calling and she was crying and she said, I can't do this anymore. I'm ready. I'm ready to go. I'll give it a try. If I don't like it, I know you told me I could come back home. And I said, you're exactly right. I said, I'm so happy to hear this. I'm so happy that you're calling. I'm so proud of you. And I said, I will do everything in my power to make this happen as quickly as possible. And I said, you're right. This is your decision. If you go and you stay one night and you don't like it, you can come back home. And I said, I'm just happy to hear that you're willing to give it a shot. And so we worked with UAB, worked with her primary care doctor, got everything approved, got an ambulance out, had her transported to this inpatient facility. She actually was approved by Medicaid to stay 90 days. She liked it so much that she requested another 90-day approval, and so she ended up staying a total of 180 days. She lost almost 300 pounds, and she was discharged back home. When she got home, she was walking. She took steps at that rehab facility for the first time in almost 2.5 years. And after that, we did not have really any more 911 calls for her. after she returned back home. So this was a situation where, most importantly, we helped the patient because she now has a better quality of life.
Absolutely.
But also, just helping our firefighters out and those in our community that were responding to her, because picking up a patient that large, this is putting a lot of strain on our personnel, and it's just dangerous. And so, this was kind of a big success in regards to helping everybody involved.
And another concern we bring up a lot of times with our bariatric patients is not only, is it's a strain on the firefighters, but if there were a fire in these houses, the chances of being able to get these people out is very slim. And again, like Brianna said, it's breaking my heart that when I come, you're not even able to get out of the bed. Until I come back again, you're still not able to get out of the bed. It also breaks our heart to think if there were an emergency in your house that we wouldn't be able to save you,
Right.
like we care about you. And so now she was able to, if God forbid there were a fire in her house, get out,
That's right.
And so it's just huge improvement for her life. So
Definitely.
yeah. Well, our last one is technically Brianna's case, but we've done a lot of tag teaming on this one. They've actually been open for a little while as well. And so when Brianna went on maternity leave the first time, I kind of took over and handed it back over once she was back. And Brianna's about to leave us again. So I'm going to be taking them over again on maternity leave. But so we're going to call them A and R, and they are intellectually disabled brother and sister. And so I'll let Brianna kind of explain how we got involved and what we've been working on.
So this case is a little different from the last two. The last two were considered frequent flyers, continuously calling 911 for whatever issues they were having. This case is a little different in the sense of when we received this referral, this was the first time that anyone in the household had ever called 911. So in this case, we have to brag on our firefighters for picking up on the need to refer this family to us. Because this is just a huge success case, in seeing that, everybody that's referred to us doesn't have to be a frequent flyer. Sometimes it can be that person's very first time to call 911, but if our firefighters are trained well enough and they walk in there and they see a need, they know to send it to us. So this is a little bit different in the sense of not being a frequent flyer. But what happened in this case was we received a 911 call from one of the children, which I'm calling them children, but they're adults, one of the adult children, in regards to their mom who was sick. And so we responded. Obviously, we needed to take the mom to the hospital. She was extremely sick and actually did not ever return home from the hospital after that transport. She was in like stage 4 kidney failure. She had a lot of health issues that they just were unaware of because this family had never really been to the doctor. They were basically just living under a little rock, and things finally got bad enough to where they, realized that they needed 911 assistance. And so, unfortunately, the mother passed away in the hospital around Christmas time. And so, at that point, I felt, obviously led to continue assisting the 2 adult children that were living in the home, because I could see, as I went out on that first visit, I could see that there was huge need, huge social need, huge medical need. This one doesn't really have any mental health, but the medical needs and the social needs, the list was very long. And so mom passed away. We got through that together, and then I did a biopsychosocial on both adult children. And so, like Lauren said, we're going to call them A and R. And so as I was going through the assessment with A, and really R, but 2, I realized that neither of them had seen a primary care doctor in 20 plus years. And we're talking about like they're in their 50s and one's in their 60s, right?
Yeah.
And so, that was immediately concerning because we just had mom pass away from some pretty severe health issues.
And specifically, I remember he had
Yes.
this, I don't know, bump you would call it, or
Mass, really.
mass, yeah, on the
Growing
side
on
of his
his
nose.
nose.
Yes, and it was very concerning to us looking at it. Like, okay, we need this to be checked out.
Right. It was very
So,
obvious that it wasn't just like a pimple that needed to be popped.
no.
Like this was something that was
No.
growing on the side of his face and that we were really concerned about. And so, going through the assessment, we identified a very, very long list of medical needs. They needed access to medical care. They weren't taking any prescriptions, but we didn't know if they needed any prescriptions because they had not been to the doctor. And then the list of social needs was just a mile long. I mean, you know, there was need for transportation. There was need for clothing, there was need for furniture, there was need for food, there was need for just, I mean, it was a
Anything
lot
you
of
could think of.
anything you could think of. And transportation really being one of the biggest because they're both intellectually disabled, so they're not able to hold a valid driver's license. And so this family didn't really have much support. They did have some siblings, but they weren't really involved in the lives of the two adult intellectually disabled children that were living in this home. And so this is one of the cases where we immediately became the support system for the
Yes.
family.
And I think it's important to note, just in which we'll kind of dive into that in a minute, but A is much more higher functioning than
Mhm.
R. And so we didn't feel like it was, okay, they can't maintain this household.
Right.
A is able to hold a very part-time job,
Mhm.
and she's able to pay bills with a little bit of assistance. So we're like, okay, they're fine to stay in this home together.
Yes.
But they need to learn now how to do it without mom.
Right.
Because mom had been the one handling stuff.
Right.
And we knew they were capable of learning, but they needed some guidance.
Definitely.
So,
Yeah.
um,
So from that point, we started just kind of assessing insurance and seeing, you know, finances and that kind of thing, seeing what they were eligible for. We were able to get them both in with primary care doctors. R did actually have Medicare due to his intellectual disability. Like Lauren said, A's a little bit more high functioning, and so she was holding a part-time job. Unfortunately, was not eligible for insurance through her job, so we referred her to a local clinic that will see patients that do not have insurance. But we got them in, got them checkups, and to kind of touch on what we were talking about, you know, the growth on R's face, we ended up getting him referred to a dermatologist and basically found out that this mass was cancerous. And so we had to take steps in assisting them with getting transportation to these appointments and making sure that he was actually going to these appointments to get this mass seen about. Thankfully, it was able to be removed and everything is benign at this point. So he no longer has the cancer diagnosis. We also worked on food assistance due to him being on disability and her having a part-time job. The household income was fairly low, and so they did qualify for food stamps. So we were able to get them on that. And then also A's part-time job, the place that she works, it closes during the summertime, and so her supervisor had been telling her for the past, I don't know how many summers, that she was eligible for unemployment, but she just did not know how to do it. This is a family that whenever I came over and told them that I was trying to get my iPad to connect to my hotspot, they were asking me what is an iPad and what is a hotspot and
what is internet?
What is internet? And when I want you to just, when we get done, try to explain to someone what Wi-Fi is here in 2024. It's not easy
internet?
to do. And so I just knew, you know, we had a very, very long way to go. But anyways, so I was able to help her get signed up for unemployment. And so now she does still receive a check every summer. So that has helped with family income. And then another thing, we really needed some in-home care services for the brother while the sister was working. And so we were able to get them connected to an in-home care company that now comes out and sits with him, or either takes him out to eat and do things while A is working during the fall and spring semesters. And so that has just improved his quality of life altogether, because they, like I said in the beginning, they have really just been living under this rock, and they had no idea the services that they were eligible for. And so without our help, they would not be connected to anything. So,
I think so that kind of led to, we're explaining internet, right? And it's this whole new world opening up to them. And so we actually put them on our Adopt a Family Christmas that we do every year. So
Yes.
we select a few of our clients and city representatives and employees. They come and purchase whatever these people list that they want on their wish list for Christmas. And then we deliver them around Christmas time to them. And so we put them on it because they didn't have their mom anymore to buy Christmas gifts. And they actually asked for a tablet because now they've learned what iPads and tablets are. And so whoever selected them graciously bought the tablet for them. And so then we realized after they got the tablet, we need to get Wi-Fi for their house. But so we helped them get Wi-Fi set up. They've now actually transitioned, because we all know the cost of like cable TV services are extreme now. And so we've transitioned them over to streaming services. Like, y'all, they're learning, okay?
Yeah.
And so they stream now, and they have Wi-Fi, and they play on their tablet. And just seeing the changes and the stuff they've learned, it's just been so rewarding.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's been a lot of fun. But I think they're also a good example of, a lot of people ask us, like, oh, how long are your cases open for? And we always tell you, like, it's case by case. There's no way to define that. And so they have been open for maybe 2 years now.
Yeah.
Do we see an end in sight? I don't know, because we are such that support for them. So really, you just don't know. And maybe a time will come that we feel confident, and they really, they know the Wi-Fi, they know transportation,
Right.
all this, that we'll feel comfortable closing. But the beauty of our program is that we don't have to before we feel ready.
And they're still learning, as long as we have goals that we are still working on, and new things come up, we have every reason to continue seeing them.
Yes.
And so, but I also want to note that, we're not enabling them.
No, if you go to the transportation, right? So we taught them about transportation services here that they were eligible for since they don't drive. Well, now she knows how to call and schedule that transportation.
Right. Yes.
And so we're slowly, because you need to take it slowly. They are intellectually disabled. They need some time to learn this stuff. But slowly, we're building it to where they know how to schedule appointments. They know how to schedule transportation.
Yes.
Like you said, to where they're not relying on us. We're not enabling them. But we want to get them to a point where they know how to do all of it.
Right.
And then we will feel comfortable, like, okay, we can step back now. You've got this. So,
yeah, exactly.
So that's all. Yeah, that is our 3 cases that we just kind of touched on for you guys, kind of see some different situations that we go through and how we've resolved those issues. So we'd love it if you will tune in next month for our next episode and find out then what we're going to be talking about.